Is there a prompt? There are 6 emergency exits.
Hello, everybody. This is Ron, your captain speaking. We are currently 30,000 feet in the air, and we haven't even left the airport. We just lit the joint. Just kidding, a little pilot humor there. We like to have fun. Our destination today is Casablanca, Morocco. So everyone, sit back, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for takeoff. We will be arriving in 6 hours.
What's going on, 7-Footers gang? It is your girl Jenna and Jarod. Of course, we are back here for more NBA madness because it's 2021 and it's the extended period of 2020. However, we have a lot to talk about today, Jarod. A lot specifically to talk about in your neck of the woods. If that's a hint for y'all who watched it.
A lot. Listen, NBA action is fantastic. I mean, when we get it, it's just there's a lot happening in these streets, a lot happening in these NBA streets in 2021. 2021, as you said, a continuation of 2020.
It is rough out here. But on a serious note, really quick, we are recording this on January 19th, which is one day after the holiday of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And everybody who is I hope even a casual fan knows that the NBA on MLK Day is huge, not just for the games, but for what the league does to celebrate this holiday and remember what's important and put good messages out there. And as the continued unrest in our country continues, as I just said. So the NBA this year specifically did a lot more than they usually do, which is even a lot on any other holiday. But this one specifically at the peak of the Black Lives Matter movement. And of course, just days after the riots on the Capitol and days before the inauguration, this was a particularly special and very different MLK Day. So we just really want to recap for a second here and commend the league for all that they do. And this is also part of their new social justice coalitions and everything that they are trying to do off the court to better our nation. And Jarod, what was a moment that really stuck out to you on Monday?
Yeah, and as you said, Jenna, MLK Day is huge in the NBA. One of the things that I think a lot of people may not know, Martin Luther King Jr. was a sports fan. And, if he were alive today, to see the message that athletes and the platforms are using to further the things that he was fighting for, that would mean a great deal to him. He did believe in sport as a place where athletes could have their opportunity to showcase dissent with what's going on in this country. And again, the things that MLK ultimately was fighting and ultimately died for were about equality, obviously for Black people in this country and those that are always, trampled under the boot of the oppressor. And I think, the league always does a great job every year, and the players come out and do various things, and there's always stuff happening in Memphis at the Lorraine Hotel. Of course, the site, tragically, where he was assassinated. The thing that was interesting for me was, some of the pieces that came out by some of our colleagues in the media. One piece in particular by a friend of the show, Wasi Lambre of The Athletic. He talked about how if the NBA wanted to continue to further the King legacy, one of the things that they should look at sort of stamping out is poverty, right? And, one of the things that, people often in their rush to, make themselves look fun or cute on Twitter by posting MLK quotes is not understanding really what this man was all about. There's a saying that we often use, saying that a person was about that life. And he certainly was about that life, and that life being literally, we must dismantle this corrupt system that literally disenfranchises its citizens. And Waz's piece in The Athletic was great. It really, really talked about how NBA players in particular, could do different things in conjunction, of course, with ownership to stamp out and eradicate poverty. And it was a powerful piece. And I liked things like that because, we often talk about sports players and their platforms. And, not everyone who has a platform is called to speak or called to do. But for those that do want to and are committed to this fight, there are things that they can do. And then in the league, if the league as a whole, the NBA wants to, continue to put out that it cares, and that it's about this life. We love what they do with the messages, the PSAs, the coalitions. All that stuff is wonderful and great. But we're talking about if we want to see real change, seismic change, the NBA can do it. The money's there, right? And the influence is there, right? Can we do something like this? So I really enjoyed Waz's perspective on that. So that was something that I liked, sort of a call to action for the NBA.
I love that. So unique, such a good pick. And I like that you showed some love to our fellow journalist friends.
Oh,
I like
that. You gotta listen. We journalists, we got our, we have our own issues. But it was nice to really, look at this piece and again, just think about what we could do. What the NBA could do if you want to honor King, right? The idea of fighting poverty, because he was someone who was about the dismantling of capitalism. He was pro-labor and pro-union rights, right? Things that would make America better for not just some people, but, ready? Wait for it, all people, right? That
such a foreign concept.
I know, such a foreign concept.
Yeah, why is it so hard?
Listen, well, we have answers. This ain't a political show, but I could get into that. Maybe I'll save that for another day.
Right. I love it. But yeah, I mean, I love that piece. I actually have to read it in full.
Yeah.
But you summarize it very wonderfully. But what I liked on the court, of course, I mean, the league did the Honor King shirts, and what a lot of people might not know is that they did go above and beyond for these. They partnered with the MLK Foundation and Martin Luther King III to design these. And it's cool. Fun fact that I thought was just really interesting. The font on the t-shirts was the font derived from carrying signs used in Dr. King's Memorial March. Yeah.
That's really cool.
So I thought that was interesting. Just those personal touches. But going deeper, though, ESPN put out a great piece, and they interviewed and talked to a bunch of players and got their personal take on what's next and after this, and how we continue to fight and build off of everything with social justice in mind. So to get this many players to, as Udonis said on the Heat, he said, I want to step out of my comfort zone more. To get these players to even step out of their comfort zone, to put out their own ideas and things of what can happen next and what they individually have planned is super important, because we're speaking about what we're going to do in the future and what we're actively doing, not just, okay, this is wrong, but whatever. So again, it just seems like there's more action being implemented by the league and its players more and more each day, and on a different and more personal level. So we love to see it. I love to see that, none of this talk has taken a back seat of sorts at all.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that stuck out to me too, just how really the NBA and its players continue to be more personal and resonate with fans and viewers watching, that it's bigger than the game. It's bigger than the sport.
Of course.
So yeah. The continued progress.
Yeah, look, these players recognize that, while they have worked extremely hard to get to the levels where they've gotten and to, enjoy what they enjoy. I mean, make no mistake about it, right? Being a professional athlete and being an NBA player has its many rewards. But let's not get it twisted. These people worked their asses off to get to this level. And then to get there and then also realize that, look, what can I do to help others, to help those that are less fortunate than I? I think is wonderful. And again, the league does a great job. A lot of players do a great job. How do we continue the fight? Because as always, the journey and the struggle for all continue.
Very, very insightfully put. Love that, Jarod.
I try,
But yes, I like that we do speak about this and acknowledge this on this podcast, because we would be very tone deaf to say that the NBA does not intertwine with anything going on right now. So
you know what I say, Jenna?
Impact.
Sports is a microcosm of the society in which it inhabits, right?
Yes.
Like it's not, right? This idea that sport is this thing separate from regular society, like, says who? According to what? Right. It's made up of people, right? Well, Those people live in society. So, I mean, it's got to be representative.
My very own philosopher right here in front of my eyes. Love it. You only speak the truth, though, and we got to talk about more truths that are happening down in Brooklyn, because we are now, as Jarod puts it, in the postmortem of the James Harden trade. We are seeing more. We're getting insightful quotes by many parties, aka the old teams, or teammates, Harden and Durant, and they have nothing but great things to say about how well and fast they're gelling together on the court. And I think Harden chalked it up to maturity and just saying that they know really who they are now. It sounds like a great relationship that has blossomed into something beautiful.
Yeah, it's, it's so interesting, right? The trade was, blockbuster, of course, right? Harden, of course, coming to Brooklyn.
And fast.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about this stuff, right, guys? So let's let you guys in behind the scenes, peek behind the curtain a little bit. It wasn't like all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the trade came. They've been working on this for quite a while, okay? That's how these things work. And, so obviously James Harden's on the Nets now. 2 games in, the Nets traded away Caris LeVert, Jarrett Allen, Taurean Prince, and Rodion Kurucs, as well as control over their draft for literally the next 7 seasons. To say that Brooklyn is in win now mode is an understatement. Yeah, they are for sure in win now mode. And look, it's early. You liken it to first day of school, first week on the new job. Everybody's happy. Everything's going well, right? They are a nightmare to defend. And all of this, mind you, is without Kyrie Irving on the floor. They are, I just don't know what you do. You have a lineup of Kevin Durant, James Harden, Jeff Green, DeAndre Jordan, and Joe Harris. It's just tough because there's just so much space out there on the floor. And, when you're talking about players of the caliber of Kevin Durant, who is again, one of the all-time great, maybe one of the 10, 11 greatest basketball players of all time, you're someone like James Harden, arguably, one of the 5 greatest offensive players we've ever seen. That kind of elite shot creation and shot making is tough to defend. So now imagine if I have to defend it in space. And in space meaning I'm not close to anybody else, so there's no help, right? So I look around and it's shit. I am one-on-one on an island against these dudes. More often than not, you're going to lose that battle, right? We always talk about the NBA being a make or miss league, right? And what that derives from is that when you have elite players like James Harden or like a Kevin Durant, and we saw this in the game against Milwaukee on Monday night, when they get to their spots on the floor, if they miss the shot, it has nothing to do with the defense. It's just because they missed, right? The defense is really irrelevant in this case, right? Make or miss, it's about them, not about what you do. And when you have 2 players like that, it's a nightmare. And now you bring Kyrie Irving into it, you'll have 3 players like that. It literally is pick your poison. Elite shooting and elite shot creation. That is something that you can never have too much of in the NBA, particularly when you're going into the postseason and you're trying to make a run at a championship. Because teams take away your first and your second. All right, well, I got 3 of these dudes. So, okay, put your best defender on Kevin Durant. Okay. How many teams truly have 3 alpha shutdown defenders? Not many. Who are also elite on the other side of the floor? Nobody. That's just not a thing, right? So the Nets can exploit that with the different actions they do. And we saw pieces of it again in these 2 games that we've seen so far. The Nets have been on a roll offensively. And again, once they get Kyrie back, and we'll get to that next, good luck. Just good luck stopping that.
Offensive nightmares. And it's not even just that it's just shooting. The ball handling between Harden and Kyrie alone.
And Durant.
It's absurd. It's
is
not okay.
It is. It's funny. So the last in the game against Milwaukee, even the first game they played against the Magic, they ran a lot of 1-3 pick and roll, right? Which is James Harden as the 1 point guard with Joe Harris the 3. Okay, well, if you blitz Harden, right, and you try to double him, well, now you have a wide open Joe Harris, right? Who is what, the best, second best, third best catch and shoot 3-point shooter in the league. I mean, okay. And then again, you run another action. You're not helping off Durant. So like, and then Jeff Green is a more than above average 3-point shooter. It's just space everywhere. And when you have, again, to your point, the elite ball handling and like, again, shot making and shot creating. It's not just about the shots they can make. We know they're elite at that. It's the shots they can create for themselves and for other people, like the aforementioned Joe Harris, Jeff Green. I mean, it's like, and all the lobs and runs to the rim DeAndre Jordan's going to catch, right? I mean, it's outstanding. And, you know, Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni, those guys they're excited over there about what this could be.
I'm excited too. And you have to think of Joe Harris, especially Nets fans. Joe Harris is the OG. He's been here since the culture turnaround, since when the Nets looked very, very different. Mm-hmm. So to have him going through kind of all these different scenarios, emotions, and going through the evolution with this team, now to be playing alongside Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, mm-hmm. and possibly have a very good chance at winning a chip. It's interesting. I really would love to sit down with Joe Harris and speak to him about the evolution. It's insane. And that's just where my mind goes, because I try to think of all the different feelings and scenarios and narratives, because again, this team looked so different not too long ago.
Oh,
but
yeah.
They're looking very good. I mean, you have Durant and Harden, who combined for 138 the other night together, and they broke history. They were the first duo to drain 30 points in their first 2 games of the franchise. So
yeah.
Again, speaking of the offensive juggernauts that they are, it is what it is. We'll see them run on a tear, most likely.
Yeah, and your point about Joe Harris is a good one. So after the games, you know, Joe's often made available to the media, and so we'll ask him questions. And after the Orlando game, this is the first game that Harden played. He's like, I mean, the guy, and this is Joe, I'm paraphrasing. He's like, the guy hasn't even had practice with us yet, and he just knows what to do. He's like, I mean, with this offense, it literally is pick your poison. I mean, who are you doubling? Who are you helping off of? Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, and Joe's getting so many wide open looks because the defense panics and freaks out when they see Harden and Durant, right? It's just, and then again, when you add Kyrie into the mix, it's just, you know, Coach David Thorpe of True Hoop, my colleague over there, one of the things he loves to say is that deep setting screens or picks forces the defense to think, right? And when you're thinking and not reacting, right, that slows you down. That gives the advantage offense, right? Think about all the thinking you're doing that. When Kyrie, Harden, and Durant are running. You're like, what the, like, paralysis, right? It's like, shit. And that half beat of pause, dead, right? Like, you're dead because the ball's already gone. They're already gone. And it's like, shit, right? And so a team that's going to beat them in the playoffs 4 times out of 7 is going to have to be so disciplined on what they do defensively and be connected and tied together on a string. And even that may not be good enough because these are 3 of the best isolation scorers in the history of basketball. So, I mean, like, right? So even if all that other stuff breaks down, it's like, all right, KD 1-on-1 on the block, get me a bucket. Okay. Like, I mean, right? It's just, it is an embarrassment of riches. Again, Joe Harris he's a friend of mine who I would say, he's like, man, he's like a pig in shit right now. He's so happy.
Hey, I would be too, man. And listen, let's really put it into perspective here. The Nets are scoring in extremely high numbers, and they're on an offensive tear without Kyrie Irving, who has just spoken. He has just chatted with the media. You were on the call. I'm going to tee this up for you, and then I want to hear what you think because, again, this is the team you specialize in. But, again, he told ESPN's Malika Andrews today, quote, "I'm back. I'm happy to be back." She asked if he was aware that he was in violation of any safety and health protocols, and he pivoted a little bit on that one and just really repeated, "I'm back. I'm happy to be back." He did speak at length again. He said that he has spoken to each and every one of his teammates. Says they're pretty much, I'm paraphrasing, but on the same page. He said he just needed a pause. It's evident and clear, in my opinion, after seeing his body language, listening to what he had to say, the tone of his voice, just everything combined, that this man is going through something. I don't know what it is. He said it was personal, family, things going on. He obviously noted that he's affected by what's going on in the world right now. And we know that Kyrie Irving has been doing so much off the court to help with the fight for social justice and against police brutality. He recently just bought a home for the family of George Floyd, who was murdered not too long ago at the peak when everything with the Black Lives Matter movement reemerged and really started the change that we're seeing now. So again, take the floor.
Yeah.
I would love to know what your initial thoughts on what he had to say. And again, guys, he has missed 7 games. He will not be returning until Wednesday, I believe, maybe January 20th. Is that confirmed?
Yeah, he will play Wednesday, January 20th. Steve Nash confirmed that today during media availability right before Kyrie spoke. And I want to be clear about something before I really dive down into this. Regardless of what anyone out there thinks, Kyrie Irving doesn't owe any of us, and that's us, media included, shit. He doesn't owe us an explanation as to where he was, what he was doing, and what's going on in his life. I don't care what you think he owes you nothing. As a sports fan, what you are owed when you decide to spend your time or your money on a basketball game, whether that be in person, though that's not having much now, or League Pass, is you are owed a basketball product. That's what you're owed. A game of some sort, right? And that's it. You're not entitled to anything else. Now, if you don't like the product you're getting, or you're upset about Kyrie not being there or what have you, guess what? This is a voluntary arrangement that you're in. You can choose to not spend money, and you can choose to spend your time somewhere else. It's that simple. Now, as far as Kyrie Irving goes, the people he does owe something to are his teammates and the Nets organization. That's who he owes it to. And from everything we heard today on the call, he spoke to his teammates and the Nets team officials, everyone individually. And if they're happy and comfortable with what was said, okay, then I'm good with it. I don't need to know what was said because, again, not my business, right? That's not what is owed to me, right? He is now here. He says he's back and he's happy to be with his teammates. And he's committed to building this thing in Brooklyn. So we're going to take that on its word for what it is. Now, he did say, originally the first question that was asked was, how are you? What's going on? He was very clear. He's like, a lot of personal and family things going on right now. And I'm going to leave it at that. Once again, not our business to find out what it is. The man said it's personal and it's family related. End of story. Now, clearly throughout the media session, as we were asking him questions and he was responding, it is evident that there are things that are weighing on him. Obviously, the personal family matters that we don't know about, but also the things that we are aware of in the world, right? The attack on the Capitol, the continued strife of those that are underserved and less fortunate, who he referenced several times on his media availability today. That is something that weighs on him heavily, and he is someone who wants to do things to help people like that. Kyrie, often, you mentioned the George Floyd family that he bought the house for them. Kyrie does stuff like this all the time. 90-something% of the time, it goes unreported because he doesn't want it to be out there what's going on. The reason why this got put out there is because Steven Jackson said it on another podcast, right? Kyrie doesn't go out and say, here's what I'm doing in the community. That's not, he just does what he does, and it's out there, okay? Now, this part that I'm going to say now is me conjecturing and speculating. What it seems to me is that it weighs heavily on his heart that he wants to do more and be an active person to make change daily in the world. He said that. I want to be a part of making change daily. I think he is struggling with how and what is the best way to do that in conjunction with my responsibilities and duties as a professional basketball player, right? That's where I think it's like, man, I want to be able to do this and do these other things, and I'm taking up, and a lot of this stuff that's happening that I'm seeing, I'm taking it all and letting it weigh on me. He did also say that, he reached out for help and he talked to, different mentors and different people who have taken some of that stuff off of his plate and said, look, we know you want to help, but the weight of the world and the burden of is not on you only, right? Other people have to be a part of this. You can't do it by yourself. So I think, a lot of that is part of what I'm going to speculate is what's going on with him and what he's experiencing. There is a level of emotion he feels about being of service to others, and he wants to continue to do that. He recognizes that, and the challenge that he has is that basketball is this platform that allows me to make the money that I can to help the people, but at the same time, I'm struggling with the fact that this isn't the most important thing, right? So it's how do we make those separations in our lives to be like, okay, I'm going to do this, work here, commit here, okay, and then in my spare time do X, Y, and Z, right? So these are the things that he as a human being is dealing with and trying to figure out the best way forward to help those in need. As a teammate, and as a player, as a member of the Nets, he said he's committed to this. He's excited to have James here and is looking forward to taking the floor with his teammates and, pushing forward to win the to hopefully bring a championship to Brooklyn, but also, do more, leave a mark, right? I think that's something that's important to him, is leaving a mark on the world, right? More than just this game. How can I literally make this place better than where it currently sits? So, again, pulling from everything he talked about, this is what I'm gathering, and I think we're gonna see. We're gonna see some things, because some things will just leak out because people say things like Steven Jackson talking about him buying the home for George Floyd's family, but he's gonna do so much other stuff that is not going to be known and heard about.
Absolutely, and I'm glad Kyrie spoke out. I'm glad he gave us more of an idea of maybe what is happening. I know he did apologize to the fans who, and just let them know that he's committed, like you said, to the organization and things of that nature. But again, glad he spoke out. I think we'll continue to see different things going on and how he's doing activism. And he did take to Instagram to post photos of himself with the captions that he's healing and he's human and things like that. So let's all definitely keep that in mind when we discuss Kyrie Irving and his off the floor.
No doubt.
Things.
And I say it all the time, Jenna, right? Like, he is an easy punching bag for everybody because of the flat earth stuff, because of like leaving LeBron, and everybody's like, oh, he's always taking shots at LeBron. And it's like, I don't know that it's that, right? Like, I just honestly think that there's more things going on in his head than what everyone sees up front, right? He also said that, I realized that the life that I live is like, and I don't think he used the word absurd, but it's like something like it's just wacky and weird, right? And again, it's this idea of, I'm getting a lot of attention for this game, which I love and poured a lot of my heart and soul and energy into to get this great. But people, there's so many more important things in the world than that, right? Like, so I think again that's a lot of where this is coming from.
Right. Well, take all of this aside and things that are personal, off the court, and things like that. Specifically, just this trade, just this big three, just this duo. When Kyrie returns, I don't mean, maybe he'll have an off game one night because he hasn't played since January 5th. I mean, in the long term, what you've seen, how these guys, you've seen their individual isolation games come together. Can he fit within James and Durant?
Yeah, I think, I think, honestly, so many people, the big thing is like, there's only one ball and all those things. And yes, that is true. There is only one basketball. But, I think from an offensive standpoint, I think this is going to work incredibly well. Because both players, Kyrie and James, can play off the ball. And one of the things that they are excellent at, I mentioned their elite shot making and shot creating, right? Kyrie and James are also excellent passers, right? Like, they are excellent at playmaking and finding guys. And I think, honestly, they can flip it if one guy's running the second unit while two of them are. That's the beauty of what Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni can do now. They can stagger their lineups, and at all times, one of those three dudes will be on the floor at all times. which is such a luxury to have, right? And then when it's all three, it's like, forget it. Again, imagine let's say you do a lineup of Harden, Kyrie, Joe Harris, Jeff Green, and Kevin Durant at the 5, right? And you run a 1-5 pick and roll with Harden and Durant. Okay, well, if you run some actions off the corner, who you helping off of and giving a wide open 3? Not leaving Joe Harris. You're not leaving Kyrie. Okay, so you're gonna help off Jeff Green. Okay, more than capable 3-point shooter, right? More than capable passer. I mean, there's so many different things that can be done with that kind of spread lineup on the floor, right? I mean, it's incredible. And Kyrie can cut off ball. James can cut off ball. The question is, will they? And I think at this stage of their careers, my guess is that, and it's funny that you mentioned what Harden said after the game against Milwaukee. They're adults now, right? Like, when they were in Oklahoma City, James and Kevin, when they were younger, they were like, man, all we want to do is score on everybody, dunk on everybody, and but they're in their 30s now. Like, they've done all that. They've won all the individual awards, and right? Kyrie
Right.
and KD have won NBA championships. The only one who's missing is Harden, right? And so I feel like his point is like, look, man, I want to have what these guys have and win a championship. So offensively, it's, if you're playing basketball the right way, which they all say they want to do and have shown in their careers that they can do it, again, good luck stopping that. Everyone loves to go, oh my God, what are you going to do late in the game? Who takes the final shot? Like, everyone loves to reduce it down to that. And okay, in some cases, yeah, they're going to have to figure out what they're going to run. And they're going to figure something out. And it's going to take time. They're going to develop. Coach Steve Nash has preached this every time he's talked to us is, guys, it's going to take time. We're not going to be a championship team tomorrow. But that's what the whole season's about, is building these reps and figuring out who we are. And I think, again, offensive side of the ball, they're going to be really good. Their challenge, of course, is defensively, right? Harden and Kyrie especially have not been known to be great defenders. Not that they are not capable. They're certainly capable. They just haven't shown that inclination. But I will say, in the 2 games that we've seen so far, you've seen moments where I'm like, this team, when they care, can actually guard, right? Like, if Harden switches on to someone in the post, he had multiple strip down steals of Giannis on Monday night and poking balls away. Like, when he's engaged on that end of the floor, it's not like, and he's solid. You're not moving him. Like, he's a big dude, right? Like, they can do some things. So if they can find themselves a way to be communicative on that side of the ball and committed, they'll be more than fine, because the offensive firepower is going to be too much for most teams. Way too much.
I mean, thank God they're in the East. That's all I have to say.
You worried about your Lakers?
Yeah. But you know what? We always figure it out. We always find a way. That's right, baby. The LA way. The LA way.
You have gone from a Miami Heat fan to a Cavs fan to a Lakers. I mean, my goodness, you're just a LeBron fan is really what this comes down to. We all know this. It's fine. It's okay.
It's similar to Drake a little bit. Like, I'm a LeBron fan, but I'm also whoever is winning at the time.
Listen, but by the way,
I gotta live my truth.
In all seriousness, that kind of makes your life more enjoyable, right? It makes sports more fun for you. You're like,
Exactly. Okay. I mean, I always got a fresh jersey. I'm always on trend. Okay. On a real note, though, lastly, the Nets, they're in a good spot too, because I don't know about you, but I can't tell that Kevin Durant's coming off an Achilles injury.
Well, that's the other thing.
Kyrie's had some time off. Okay, let's hope he's, healing, as he says.
Yeah. And
Harden is finally happy.
And
it seems like. So
let's
go.
As Steve Nash has said, he's doing all this and he's not even in his best shape yet. Right? Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of good. And, really quickly on Durant, I mean, my God. I mean, he is 68% true shooting, coming off an Achilles, second leading scorer in the league, averaging 30 points a game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. I mean, I watched closely and I'm like, you sure you had an Achilles injury? I'm like, looking pretty good there, buddy.
I know we saw him in the boot with the scooter and whatnot, but that might have been staged.
But-
Like,
but-
he
but-
might have come out like a broken finger.
But again, this is something that I said prior to. I thought that his game, even with, and you can, there are definitely some places where he is a little bit diminished, but how much of that is like he's just 32 and got a lot of miles on his body versus the Achilles. The fact that he is an elite shooter and he's 7 feet tall will allow him to compensate for this injury better than most people who suffer this injury. So, yeah, I mean, look, if you're Brooklyn, if that guy's healthy and he's playing like this all season, I mean, he's playing like an MVP candidate. I mean, like, he playing like this, and those other, and Harden and Kyrie fitting around him, again, good luck. Good luck, NBA.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't already seeing MVP predictions for Durant.
Well, I mean, we're like 13 games in. Let's calm down. But
Well, you know how these people out here like to be. You know how they are.
these Twitter streets.
Exactly. All right, let's travel to Houston to talk about what's going on there. Harden's old team, because now we have Victor Oladipo down south with the Houston Rockets, and his debut, he dropped a mere 32 points. Nice, love that. And he's still, in my opinion, recovering from that injury. What was that? The ACL.
Was it a knee? It wasn't an ACL. I think it was like
It wasn't the ACL,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was the knee.
Yeah, it was a knee. Something knee.
Anyway, yeah. But again, he's down in Houston. What do you think of this fit at all? I didn't see this coming, but he was also part of the big trade, obviously the blockbuster trade with Harden.
Right.
They also sent Caris LeVert, who we'll get to eventually.
Yeah.
But what were your initial thoughts on this Oladipo trade?
So that's
He was
interesting.
very emotional leaving the Pacers.
Oh, no doubt. So here's what's interesting about that, right? Originally, it was Caris LeVert going to Houston, but it was a 4-team trade, right? So it involved the Cavaliers, the Nets, the Rockets, and the Pacers. So actually, the Pacers, smartly here, they were like, okay, let's get Caris LeVert for Victor Oladipo, because they knew the Rockets. I told you, your man, broke boy Tillman Fertitta, is trying to get off of all them long contracts. He doesn't want to be paying nobody any long money, okay? We're getting out of the luxury tax. We're trying to rebuild this team because I am a broke boy. That's what Tillman Fertitta told GM Raphael Stone. So now with Oladipo, what Houston has is an expiring contract, right? Because after this season, he's a free agent. So all they'll have under contract is Wall, likely, and not much else. And they have a plethora of draft picks. They have the 4 first-round picks from the Nets and 4 pick swaps, right? So as I mentioned at the top of the show, the Nets don't have control over the draft for the next 8 years. So for Houston, what they are hoping is that the Nets blow up and fail in dramatic fashion, right? In 2 years, when Kyrie and Harden and KD are free agents, they didn't win any titles, and this team is now bereft of draft picks, and those guys all leave or retire or who knows what happens. Well, now you're at the bottom of the barrel again, Nets. You're terrible. You're in the lottery. Oh, but don't worry. You think you're getting the first pick? No. It's a pick swap. So Houston will then take whoever has the best, so if Houston has the Nets have the better deal, they take that, right? And so the idea being there, if the Nets fail in dramatic fashion and in 2, 3, 4 years from now, they're at the bottom of the league, Houston's going to control all that draft capital. Really, Houston and Oklahoma City are going to be the only teams drafting for the next 10 years. They have everybody's draft picks.
Sam Presti was down in OKC collecting all that in the bag.
They got everybody's draft picks. But look, with Houston, I think, the idea is here with John Wall and Oladipo. Let's see what we got. Maybe we'll re-sign Oladipo. Maybe we won't. We'll see what we do. But Houston clearly is in a rebuild mode. They also want to see what they have with Christian Wood and DeMarcus Cousins, right? And what this could be. They might be a little bit better than they think they'll be. And it'll give Paul Silas a chance to coach this team and put in the kind of system that he wants to put in.
No, I agree. I like that. Good move on Indiana's part, getting that expired Oladipo contract out of there. Like you said, rebuild is happening. Really? I mean, do you think that they would really re-sign Oladipo?
I think it depends, right? If he shows out and is playing really, really well, and they're like, man, we can build around this guy and we think he could be a cornerstone piece, I think they'll consider it. I think, again, right now, everything's on the table for them. With those picks, with everything, maybe they do a sign and trade in the offseason. Who knows? Because what they're trying to do, again, as I said, is rebuild the roster, right? It was James Harden centric for the last 8 years or so. So, okay, he's gone now. Let's rebuild, see what we can do. We have the draft capital. We've got some players here. Let's see what happens and see what we can do and try to remake this team, hopefully into a contender down the line.
Right, and they still have PJ Tucker, so veteran presence there.
Who's likely going to get moved. I mean, I feel pretty confident that they're going to want to move Tucker.
I feel pretty confidently that he wants to be moved.
Well, there's also that. There's also that.
All right, let's move on to Caris LeVert, who was also involved in this 4-team trade, like we just said, because this is a very interesting turn of events. And so, again, he gets sent from the Nets to the Pacers. He went to the Indiana Pacers. And, again, in the MRI, you got to get your team physical, everything. When you get traded like that, they find a mass on his kidney. We don't know much about it. He did tell ESPN he didn't have any symptoms. He felt 100%. He felt great. But he said that he was glad about the trade because it potentially saved his life. So he's out indefinitely. They're trying to get the results from the MRI so he can return to the floor. But I'm not sure how likely this is going to be.
Yeah. So, this was interesting. This hit home for me because I started covering the Nets Caris LeVert's rookie year, right? So
it's part of that culture change.
Yeah, huge. And so again, if this trade didn't happen, they may have never found this because getting an MRI on that part of the body is generally not something teams do. The Nets wouldn't have done that, right? They found it doing a lower back MRI scan, and they saw it. The doctor saw it in that MRI scan. They don't know whether the mass on his kidney is benign or anything or cancerous. They have no idea. They're waiting on tests, as you said. Caris is very grateful for the Pacers because the Pacers could have been super, capitalist and cold and been like, oh, we found the mass, trades off, right? And they could have stopped the whole trade because that's the thing about these trades people don't realize. In order for them to finally take hold, every person that's part of the deal has to pass their physical. Well, the Pacers could have been like, nope, that's a fail, out of here, right? And stop the whole thing. But they didn't. They put their arms around him and his family and are like, all right, we're going to see what's happening here. You're a good young player. We're going to be with you on this. And Caris spoke to Indiana media today. And, he said he's very grateful, obviously, for the Pacers and their organization and how they've welcomed him in. And he's looking forward to getting back on the floor and joining his teammates as soon as he can. He's in good spirits. And, it's really just, again, it's indefinite right now. So they're just waiting to find out the results of this mass on his kidney to see what the next steps are.
Yeah, just waiting. I mean, the Pacers drafted him in 2016, so they're showing loyalty. So I love that. And wishing him nothing but the best and hoping that he gets well very, very soon and we can see him back out on the floor. Because, I mean, he's averaging good numbers right now.
Yeah,
so
he started to play well.
Yeah, not too shabby.
And again, if you're Indiana, this is smart because you are not a free agency destination. Free agents aren't lining up to go there. So if you can have another player of Caris LeVert's caliber under contract, and he's under contract for 2 more seasons, that helps you out as a team. You already have Brogdon, you have Domantas Sabonis, right? I mean, Indiana's playing well. They're a good team. So another piece like LeVert is very helpful for them.
Exactly. So again, wishing him a speedy recovery right there and hoping they figure it out.
Prayers up, Caris.
Yes. Let's continue to chat injuries because unfortunately the Trailblazers are without 2 major stars, okay? We have CJ McCollum, who is out for at least until he's reevaluated 6 weeks with a fractured, what was that? A hairline fracture in his left foot.
He's got a foot fracture.
I didn't know the exact severity of the fracture, but yeah, fracture in the foot, and then we have Nurkic, who's out with the wrist injury right there. Mm-hmm. So these aren't just sprains.
No.
This is weeks of rehab, possible surgeries. I mean, how bad is this for the Blazers right now with 2 of their main stars out? I
mean, it's real bad. I mean, CJ was lighting the league up. I mean, he was playing so well.
The Shark.
And that's obviously Dame's backcourt running mate. I mean, look, at a minimum, we're talking. Let's just assume everything goes perfectly well, which, come on, in rehab and stuff like this, it never does. At a minimum, you're talking 6 weeks. 6 weeks just to get, for both of them, just to get reevaluated. And then we'll see where they are. And so they're going to have to tread water for those 6 weeks as an organization. And it's going to be tough for Portland because, they're going to lose firepower, obviously, with CJ, and size and rebounding and defense with Nurkic. And it's going to be tough for them because Enes Kanter, while he's more than capable offensively, he's a turnstile on defense, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be tough.
So tell me how, in your opinion, how this lineup shifts now.
I mean, now you're going to see more time for Rodney Hood. Maybe Nasir Little gets some more time. They're going to really have to, and Terry Stotts loves to lean on his veterans. But, my dude, injuries, necessity is the mother of invention. You're going to have to give some playing time to some of these guys and figure out what you have here. Because, again, you're going to have to do better than tread water for these, at a minimum, 6 weeks, maybe 2.5 months without these guys in your lineup. Does that mean more minutes for Melo? Anthony Simons, is he someone that should be getting more burn? I mean, they're gonna have to figure out some things. Maybe they switch and they go small, right? Like, who knows? But it's gonna be tough, and of course, Dame's gonna take on a lion's share of that scoring burden, right? And it's gonna be tough in Portland. It's gonna be really tough.
It really is. But I mean, if there's anyone who's up for that challenge, it's Dame and the type of mentality that he has. And don't be hating on my Mello over there. He's going to get some more minutes.
Look. Ain't nobody
going to show out.
Is he? Ain't nobody hating on Mello. It's just the idea of reason why he was working so well in Portland is because he was playing off the bench, backup limited minutes, which made sense. He can't be playing 30-something minutes a night. That's not going to be helpful. If Portland wants to keep winning, that ain't it. The idea is these young guys, give them some run. And I know, again, Terry Stotts, that's probably not what he's thinking in his brain because, leaning on the young guys, but because they're going to make mistakes. But that's how they learn, right? And let's be real. Even if, and sorry, Portland fans, even if Nurk and CJ never got hurt and you were healthy, you weren't a contender anyway. Like, let's just call it what it is. You weren't going to the NBA Finals. Like, that wasn't happening. So you might as well play the kids now and the young people and see what you have. Just my 2 cents.
I agree. Whatever. Fine.
Just saying.
But luckily it's early on, so hopefully they can turn some things around. Hey, Portland's always that creeping in 8th seed that always surprise us. You never know.
Surprised with what? What, they're going to be an 8th seed and beat the Lakers? No. I mean...
I tried, Portland. I tried. All right, let's go back to Indiana because we got to talk about the Pacers for a second because Miles Turner has a slight fracture in his right hand, and right now he's a leader in block shots in the NBA, so it's not really great for the defensive end for the Pacers. But let's talk about the loss of Miles Turner here and what's going to happen down in Indiana.
Everyone always talks about the odd fit on Indiana with Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis, but
yeah.
but I love it though because Miles is a stretch 5, right? He can shoot threes, and as you mentioned, leading the league in blocks, averaging almost 4.5 per game. That is insane.
He's a defensive beast.
He's so good, and he's a big part of what they do on both sides of the floor. A fracture on the wrist. That's a little worrisome. I know he did practice today, which I'm like, bro, why are you practicing right now?
What's interesting, though, is he practiced today. He's listed as day-to-day, and he's already seen multiple specialists. So where on the severity scale is this? Because it is really confusing to me.
Listen, my thing is like, my man, let's not do anything to like jeopardize so that you're out longer. If you need to take a couple weeks to do what you got to do, let's figure it out. But listen, they do see the best specialists in the world, so hopefully they'll figure this out.
Well, hopefully they figure it out down in Cleveland, too, because Kevin Porter Jr. is wild now. It's not food. Damn it. This ain't no kids' cafeteria. This is an NBA locker room. I'm severely disappointed in you, Kevin Porter Jr., only because this is the second time I'm seeing you in the news as a young player, and you haven't done shit on the court.
Like throwing food because they gave Torian Prince your locker. It's like, bro, I mean,
he had to go sit with the young kids, so now he's all pouting and whatnot.
I mean, it's like, my guy, there are other ways we can voice our displeasure about having our locker given up. Maybe it's like, hey, let me go, hey guys, I really wish you'd have came to me and told me you were giving away my locker, but again, but also, But also, you're a young dude in this league, my guy. Like, listen, you ain't a 10-year OG vet. Like, that's how it works.
one wants a young guy with an attitude.
That's how it works, my guy. That's how it works. But look, come on, man, throwing food? Like, what are we doing here? This is some kiddie stuff. Cut it out.
Exactly. I mean, hey, he's been working his way back to the team after other personal things, as you guys might have seen. If not, quick Google search will help you out. And
listen, the Cavs want to trade him. They're like,
the Cavs. Out of everyone, the Cavs. No offense to my guy Andre Drummond, my guy Kevin Love, but
Sexland, baby. That's the new Sexland. The new
LeBron James left, and you got Kevin Porter trash in the locker room. Damn it!
Forget it. They don't need him. They got Sexland. Colin Sexton, Darius Garland, the best nickname. That's way better than Splash Brothers. Sexland. That's hilarious. Like,
let's go for them, not I'm gonna just bow out of this one. I'm a person too. Damn it. Oh. It's been a good one, don't you think, Jarod? A lot of injuries, which have me worried. But hey,
well, I said this going into this season. I was like, oh, this short turnaround. Like, I'm not loving this. Like, please, we need to turn injuries off. Like, like on the video game, injuries off. Yes, and COVID postponements are continuing. Mostly any game that involves the Wizards or the Phoenix Suns, although the Phoenix didn't play the other night, so they're okay. But the Wizards really seem to be.
They're hoping, yeah.
That's the team that's really causing a lot of issues right now, in terms of the COVID protocols. But
Poor Bradley Beal.
Poor Bradley. Free Bradley Beal. Hashtag free.
Please, I'm gonna make the T-shirts.
Hashtag free Bradley Beal. But that's another episode, guys, of the 7 Footers Basketball Podcast. You know where to find us: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We're on Twitter at 7 Footers Podcast. We're on at 7 Footers Pod. Excuse me. On Instagram at 7 Footers Podcast. We're out there at JS Hector, at Jenna Lemoncelli, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.
Spent a couple years out here with these raps, trying to have a plan that we made come true. Applied to some jobs, but I ain't hit back. I don't wanna trap, what some man gon' do? Chevy told me come